Welcome back to the Nostalgia and Nonsense podcast. I'm Tylah Hill and I'm here to take you on another trip down memory lane. This week we're talking about nostalgic kids' TV shows, mainly game shows that I wanted to be on. Welcome to Nostalgia and Nonsense. Let's hit rewind. Today we're taking a stroll down memory lane to revisit some classic Aussie kids game shows that filled our screens with excitement and entertainment. They were the shows that we wanted to watch when we got home from school. So grab a seat and let's dive into the world of these unforgettable TV game show gems. We're kicking things off with Go Go Stop, which was one of my personal favorites. It featured a grid of 30 plasma screens which made up the game zone, and they'll arrange in a rectangle, so there was like 5 screens wide and 6 screens high. And I remember the theme song, it was like, expect a lot, give it a shot, you can own the zone, so go go stop. Oh, it was such a vibe. The host of the show was Jesse, and basically they would have schools on there each week on each day, and the Friday episodes were so wild because it was when you'd find out what school wins for the entire week. In Go Go Stop, the players answered questions with multiple choice options, or sometimes it was like true and false. They had control pads that were strapped to their wrist, and the players could take their time to answer, but only that those who answered correctly could advance down the game zone. The correct answers earned them points without penalties for mistakes, and the first player to answer correctly would take the lead in the game zone. At first in this show, during the filming process, the audience who would watch were from other schools, and they were allowed to shout out the answers. But soon this was changed because the players just kept following what the crowd's suggestions were. At the start of each round, the players would choose a position on the game zone at the top. The correct answers allowed them to step onto the plasma screen, which would then light up with a command that they had to follow. So there was like hazards, stop, and safe zones. And each school had 8 contestants that were selected from the school auditions. So there was 5 contestants that participated each day, and then they had 3 that were put on reserve, and that was to cover things like if someone was sick or had to be away or hurt themselves. And also when you're filming TV shows, like you can't have like branded clothing or anything like that. Like you can't go out there with a Simpsons shirt and then put that on TV. So if anyone wore branded clothing to the taping and the filming of the show, they would then be replaced by someone else that is in the reserves. There was also a lot of awesome prizes. There was a website called ripit.com.au where you could legally download music, and the show had vouchers that they'd give away to contestants for that. There was sports packs, surfing lessons, skateboards from Rebel Sport, the Sunbeam popcorn machines and Fairy Floss machines. Do you guys remember those? They were so bloody fun. They also had a prize, which was a jet boat ride in Sydney, one of those really fast jet boats that you go in over the Sydney Harbour. You could win MP3 players, art packs with velvet stickers. Oh, how I miss velvet stickers and scratch and sniff stickers, and how I just miss those art packs in general that you could buy. And also connector pens was one of the prizes as well. It was a whole whirlwind of excitement that really kept us on the edge of our seats, and I would always be chanting out the answer and yelling at my TV screen, and I just can never forget those nail-biting moments. And like just a single mishap and wrong step could really turn the whole game around and change the difference between victory and defeat for the schools. So Go Go Stop was one of my favorite game shows growing up. Another game show that I really loved was called Spit It Out, and it had the host on there. His name is Elliot Spencer. You'll probably know him from that roller coaster segment that used to be on ABC. You know, when he's like, bye for now, not forever. But one day he actually just left us forever. Yeah, that dude. So with this game, it was Spit It Out with school-based teams that compete against each other in a lot of word-related games. So each team had a clue leader who gets the clue word given to them by the host, and that leader then has to tell the other 4 teammates to find what letter blocks based on a clue. So for example, like if the word was fish, and then I needed to let someone know that the letter F they needed to get to put it on the word blocks. So I'd have to give them a clue for them to get the letter F and where to put it. The team members would then attempt to guess the word relating to the clue. Then there was Lab Rats Challenge, which was on Channel 9, I believe. And this was definitely one of my favorites. It was a show that blended science experiments with a lot of physical challenges. There was like a mini science fair kind of crossed with an obstacle course. I love the obstacle course section, especially when they had to go through that little dark tunnel. And also right at the end, they would get a big dumping of cheese on them. They'd have to pull the lever, and whoever won on that team, the red team or the blue team, they'd get all cheese covered over them. And yeah, it was so cool. There's a lot of wild and wacky challenges and mostly kind of scientific knowledge based. And you know, it wasn't just entertaining, it was also kind of educational because you got to see a lot of practical applications of science and just fun. And it was a reminder of how learning can be really exciting sometimes when it's put on a game show. And I just always wanted to be on this game show. I had my plan on how I would win, and I just needed some mates that will come on with the game show with me. Lab Rats Challenge, such a vibe on Channel 9. They should bring that one back. Another game show that was on Channel 7, it's called It's Academic, and it was based on the American version of the game where students from different schools, once again, they compete against each other with a lot of different knowledge questions, but they would cover a lot of different subjects that you would learn at school. So there was like English, math, science, geography, and there was also like sport, music, and pop culture questions as well. So it was kind of a more traditional like quiz show that would put the schools up against each other to see who would come out on top. There's also the Great Australian Spelling Bee, which had a lot of educational content with a little bit of a competitive edge. Each episode had young spellers tackling a range of challenging words, and just watching their concentration and determination was so cool. And yeah, the Great Australian Spelling Bee, I think it taught me how to spell a bit better too. Another show that we shouldn't overlook was Bindy's Boot Camp. It had Bindi Irwin on the show, and she was the host, and she took us on adventures through the Australian outback kind of animal vibes. And yeah, there's a lot of physical challenges in this one, along with some wildlife education. And Bindi Irwin, I've always loved her. I used to think that I was going to end up marrying Bindi, but that never happened. And the show was just, really encourage you to learn about wildlife, but also have a blast at the same time. And just having Bindi Owen in her own game show was a pretty cool idea. I miss the Crocmen though. Has anyone checked on them lately? With the CROCMEN, CROCMEN, Crocman. Hope they're going okay. Another classic kids game show that I watched growing up was Pyramid, which I also think was on Channel 9. And this had teams climbing their way up through a series of pyramids. Basically, it was like a screen, multiple screens that would make up a pyramid, and they had to solve a lot of different clues. And yeah, it was cool to watch that show with all the words and challenges. And in the first round, the celebrities, there was like a guest celebrity on each episode. They would give the clues, and the contestants would have to guess the word or phrase. And in the second round, it was kind of like the first round, but the celebrities had to switch the teams. And in the third and final round, the contestants had the clues and the celebrities had to guess. And it was just a cool game all around. And I used to try to make up my own version of it and try to get people to play with me. But no one really would. I think it was just me that was obsessed with the show Pyramid. There was also a ton of cool prizes. There was Crocs and Gibbets. This was in 2009. So Crocs, you're not a new thing. You've been around for a long time. There was go-karting vouchers, Hannah Montana books, Razor ripsticks, encyclopedias, and portable speakers. Like, who wouldn't want those prizes? And how could we forget about Wipeout? Although this wasn't really a kids' TV show, it was definitely one that I wanted to be on, with the obstacle courses and the big red bouncy balls. I reckon I could have made a splash on that show, whether as that was in a good way or me just splashing in the water. Like, it looked like so much fun, and they always got the wackiest people on that show. And I'm pretty wacky, wouldn't you say? Okay, now one that I really wanted to be on was on Nickelodeon, and it was called Camp Orange. And they had auditions for this usually in like shopping centers, where Nickelodeon would go to shopping centers, set up a big activation, and people could come and audition to be on Camp Orange. And the teams are basically 2 people in each team, and it was kind of like a camping kind of theme. and there was a lot of slime involved, and you have to be between 10 and 13 to audition, and you'd make up like a team name and film like a video on why you should be on the show. I think one of my favorite contestants on this show, they're called the One Hit Wonders, and they actually won one of the seasons. And I remember it was Baxter because I thought his name was so cool. And yeah, Camp Orange. I don't know, Baxter, if you're still out there, like what you doing now? How was it when you're on Camp Orange? And last but not least is a show that aired from 2000 to 2002. It was called Download, and it aired on the Nine Network, and it had Scott McRae, and then the host was then Nathan Lloyd, and they ended it off with a host named Emily. So it was kind of like a word hangman style game, but they had really awesome Y2K kind of sound effects and electronic computer themes and vibes. I think one of the host name, or like the voiceover lady that was on the show, her name was Miss Bites. And this show was created by Icon, which is actually now a gambling slot kind of company. So yeah, it was a cool show. Mainly I just loved the Y2K theming and the kind of computer cyber vibes of this show. It was a cool idea. And although I didn't really watch it at the time because I was a little bit too young, I do miss this show. Like, I wish they'd bring back a show that had these similar vibes because I would definitely watch it. So that's some of the classic TV kids game shows that I used to watch growing up and that I loved. So let me know if there's any others that you remember, or if you have any nostalgic memories with these shows. Let me know over on my Instagram at Tylah Hill. Slide into my DMs, send me a voice note, or join me over on my Patreon Internet Island community, and we can chat there. Believe it or not, but I was a child entrepreneur before people even knew what entrepreneurs were. I was out there making money, making businesses, making a profit, getting the dollars, because I had a lot of businesses that I ran as a kid. And I like to say that, like, I am full of ideas. I'm always coming up with new things. And I think that, like, just as a kid, I was the same. I think it probably all started when I had like a beads collection. So like you Taylor Swift fans out there making your besties bracelets, like I was doing that from the womb. And I used to make bracelets for people and sell them so you could buy them with your name on it. Or if it was like Mother's Day, I'd make like a little Mother's Day collection. Like I used to be doing that, and that was one of the first things that I used to make when I was becoming an entrepreneur. But it then progressed into other things. How else could I make money? Could I sell my Macca's toys at a garage sale? Yes, I did do that, and I sold them so cheap, and I do wish that I have much more of them than I do now. Oh, what I'd do to have those Macca's toys back. Another thing that I used to do is putting Milo inside of milk and then mixing it up, putting it in the freezer, and then you take it out, and it's just like a nummy chocolate milky treat. And I used to do this so much that we actually started selling them in year 5 at school, in primary school, so people could come and buy them. Thanks so much for joining me again for another week of the Nostalgia and Nonsense podcast. Once again, you can join my Patreon, which is called Internet Island. I post heaps of exclusive and bonus stuff over on there, so just join it. The link is in the podcast episode description. Thanks so much for listening. Have a good week. See you next Tuesday. Oh, I didn't mean it like that, but sure. Bye.